Hey guys, just want to show off a build that I've been playing. It is a Thorns Ritualist. I played a Thorns Warrior beforehand, and Thorns Warrior, or Warbringer rather, has a lot of issues around clear speed, and it just feels pretty awkward in a lot of denser situations. So I thought I would try to make use of this node, Blood Boil, which essentially, as mobs are in your presence, they accumulate a Blood Boil every few seconds, and when they die, per how many blood boils they have on them, the AoE of who they can spread the corrupting blood to gets bigger, and each corrupting blood deals 2% of their slain or the target mob's HP, which is should be a scalable value. So I have brutality, swift affliction, magnified effect, and acrimony in it, and I'm coupling that with Herald the Blood, which at first I didn't realize worked, but since Herald the Blood specifies that it's blood loss, it doesn't need to be from bleed. The mobs that die from corrupting blood pop Herald the Blood, which then it creates a super awesome chain reaction. So that was the main idea behind going Thorns on this. And then the ring slot and the better rings allowed me to keep this ring on because Thorns has a pretty hard time getting multipliers, so this is a 10% more multiplier to mobs for hits, and also 10% damage reduction. And then there's res rings, which are better, and this node adds quite a bit of survivability. When you start taking damage, you start healing more as you get lower. Nothing too special with the Thorns gear, Thorns belt, Thorns chest. The helmet that enables it allows you to retaliate against all hits. The boot set allow your Thorns to crit. The the gloves that allow your Thorns to impale, which adds quite a bit of extra free damage. Thorn shield, and then the weapon, you really just want the fastest mace possible. There's a couple other gimmicks around like stomping ground and spears, but in my opinion it's pretty clunky. Unless you're Warbringer, you can use like a spear on Warbringer and it feels pretty good, but like otherwise I feel like armor breaking is just the way to go. So I chose to go with this mace because it's fast, it gives you a bit of accuracy, and it also gives you some lightning damage, which occasionally allows you to shock a mob, which is a nice little bonus onto it. Um, and then all the jewels I have are Thorns damage with Global Fizz. And then I should have a Presence jewel somewhere. Yeah, some Presence AoE. Since the Blood Boils are Blood Boil is based off your presence, getting a big presence is pretty important. So there's a way you can check that if you go to any node that says presence on it. You pin it. You can see how big it is. So this is my presence AoE. I have like roughly 120% increased effect, so it should be a little over 9 meters, which is pretty big. Ideally, the bigger you can get it without sacrificing too much, because as mobs, for Thorns at least, as mobs get towards the end of your screen, or within your presence, the bigger your circle is, the sooner you start applying corrupting blood on mobs, the faster your chain reaction can go in for the clear. And then if you, for instance, get shot, or a ranger shoots you and kills himself with Thorns, and he's already got a blood boil on him, he will start a chain reaction to where he died. This, in my opinion, is probably one of the faster clearing Thorns builds. Poison might be a contender, but this is infinitely better than the Warbringer build I was playing. Yeah, I'll jump on a map and show you what it plays like. Which one do I want to do? I want something a little bit denser. Veil Factory sucks. Augury terrible. Steaming Springs. Playstyle is super simple. It's just hold armor break and run at mobs. Really nothing to it. Ideally, when you run into a pack, you want to try to kill the rare first. Try to get a big pack going. this mob at? See if I can find the breach. That should show the density clear. If I can make it that far. See if you can see those mobs over there, they got the blood boils on them, so he'll die, and he'll die. So, doesn't seem, it's no zoomer playstyle, but compared to normal Thorns, this has got quite a bit of clear added onto it. Deli should be a little bit better looking. This is one of the good parts about Thorns. Kind of ID what you're after while you're being pummeled. these chaos balls are so annoying on melee. Holy cow. Dodge rolling for my life. Okay, so hopefully you guys get the gist. Generally, the more open the layout, the more dense the layout, the better the clear becomes. So it's got pretty much the polar opposite of a general Thorns build. Show you how I roughly built it. So a kind of another advantage that you get from going over here is you get some more crit, and because Thorns has such high base crit from the boots and the node over here, just a little bit of crit ends up scaling the total crit by quite a lot. I think I'm at almost 80. If you get a pair of 30% boots, this should be around 90. And then like another jewel would kind of push over the top. I have decided to go glancing blows. It was a short-term solution. Full block with some really ideal shield that has like a percent chance to block would be better. And then I would drop this and probably drop all of this over here outside of the jewel socket and anoint this and then path up to here and get the rest of your block chance and maybe some nodes over here and get real block. That would add a ton of survivability. Um, yeah. Another advantage that starting over here goes is like you end up kind of being able to afford more jewel slots because you're not so compact over here, and some of the nodes really aren't that great. Like, I see folks going for these nodes all the time. Like, these are okay, but like when you're on Warbringer, this is terrible. Like, you don't want to ignore the enemy's resistance or armor when their armor's broken or sometimes even negative, depending if you take both warrior nodes. But like, even so, when you're on I'm not on a warrior, and I don't think it's worth it because trash mobs die pretty much from one Thorns hit, and then on bosses, their fully armor broken pretty much immediately. Um, so again, saving points by not going over here is pretty ideal. Um, and then since I went glancing blows, I get my block really easily. So I save a lot of points where a lot of Thorns builds have a lot of their passives tied up in that. Um, actually see a point that I have misplaced. Fix this real quick. Um, and another thing with Ritualist, in theory, if you can get good enough gear, which I'll elaborate on a little bit here, this node becomes pretty insane with Leech. So like this allows you to go over cap, so that allows your Leech to never stop. So then if you do get hit, let's say you get half health, this is going to increase how much life recovery you're getting from Leech because it's increasing the life recovery rate. Any regen that you have, um, health flask. This node has a ton of power packed behind it. You could go with this and Ritualist Sacrifice. I think this is not for me, but you know, in theory, if you somehow solve defenses, you could go into this. But I think this adds a ton of survivability. If I keep playing the character, I will swap out this necklace and lose some damage for a Defiance of Destiny because that amulet should also, from my understanding, get increased effect the lower HP you're at, so it increases its life recovery mechanic even more as you get hit more often, which is just raw power. And then also because your life pool becomes so effective with recovery is getting things like Grand Spectrum jewels for percent life. I think you get 18%. Am I getting that wrong? 3 times 2 times 2. Maybe 12% max life. I'm sorry off those. And then the amulet has 12 and is buffed by 25%. So you know you could get this probably up to 4K life if you pushed it, maybe even higher if you really decided to min max it. But yeah, that node has a ton of power packed behind it. Um, and another thing with the Thorns build is, or not so much, a Thorns build struggle in general because there is more support this season Um, but they have lack of percent increases in the tree. So you essentially have this cluster right here, which allows you to leech from Thorns damage, which is great. You have this cluster, and this cluster. This is not that much damage compared to other classes, and you can't take like attack damage or anything like that. So another way to do it is jewel sockets, which I covered earlier, or these nodes, which when you get 75% block chance, there's this node here. Uh, this node is also for blocking, and then this node, I believe. Yep, this one. So that's 200% plus increased damage for having max block, which is pretty good. And the big advantage on this build is because it's generic damage, it scales the blood boil corrupting blood damage as well. And it also scales your armor smack or your armor break with the lightning damage, which occasionally shocks. Again, not a big time or big deal, but just kind of a nice little benefit of it. Um, the further extrapolate the passive tree, if I keep leveling it, I'll end up taking this node. Um, if I get my reses fixed and fix my gear, I will take these two nodes, and then this jewel socket, and I think that'd push me. Oh, that'd be like 90 something. So I really want to go. I guess if you really, really want to throw in max it, you could try to. Where would you go? You could try to get down to this node. This would give you a little bit more single target, but honestly, for mapping, the single target is not the problem. The problem is really surviving when you get mobbed on, or just how unfriendly the melee experience could be in the game, which armor kind of still sucks, is really the big takeaway. So, um, if you want it better clear, you could try to get into a sort of pathing up there. You could try to get more presence area of effect. There's some here too. There's some Tekka over here too. Like some of these nodes are like minion damage or companion damage, and if you have a companion, which I wouldn't recommend, but just even the generic 12% increased damage combined with this node, you get some generic scaling, and it would also put you closer to more crit, which is again more damage. Um, that's kind of where I would take the passive tree if I wanted to play it even more. Um, let's see. So Herald of Blood, there is some interesting tech going on here. So Herald of Blood's a bit weird, which we covered a little bit earlier. Um, but since it's blood loss, and that blood loss is an unscalable value, a lot of people socket supports in because it will let you socket support gems in here. Because Herald of Blood has this base fizz damage, and a lot of this, like Deadly Herald's a really good example. It will scale the hit damage of the Herald, but not this portion, which if you're playing a damage over time character, this is the big hit. So um, that really limits the support gems you want. I've chosen, I don't think I would even run anything else. Maybe some more stuff around poison. I think corrosion might be interesting. Um, but this one has essentially no downside. It makes it bigger, and then it has less accuracy, but all the heralds have can't be evaded on them. So this is just 35% more AoE on it. And then I'm doing Envenom, so my herald has 50% chance to poison off this gigantic hit. And since I've scaled some generic damage in the tree, um, that poison has some potency to it. And then this also gives the the poison damage turns into plague damage, which then adds another AoE clear onto the Herald. So it's like a bunch of chain of events of dots happening. So Blood Boil into Herald of Blood, and then into Poison, into Blurstein Plague. So you get a lot of compounding dots um, that help to clear. Um, this is this made the build for me. Like I was trying to play with just Corrupting Blood to see how it felt without Herald of Blood, and Herald of Blood in combination with Blood Boil slash Corrupting Blood is really what made the build have a huge improvement in enjoyment factor. Um, so yeah, don't overlook this. You also don't need to level your Herald. Keeping it level 4 is just fine. You're starved on Dex. But yeah, the base fizz damage does almost nothing for the build. Wouldn't worry about it. Scavenge plating. you want to keep this as high of a quality as you can. You want it to have +1 level in there because this is a major source of thorns. It's probably, I think the gear is 200, 200, 200. Yeah, it's basically double or probably roughly 60% of my thorns damage comes from scavenge plating. You want to get this as high a level as possible. You would want like the Prism of Beyond Belief with +3 scavenge plating, but that's like 90 divines, mostly because Mathil just got done playing a Thorns build, so everyone thinks that, they found the first meteorite on Earth and that it's going to sell for a gajillion gold. But I would give it a week and those things will plummet because Thorns isn't that popular. It's also not that good of a build. It's a fun build and it's a niche playstyle they've enabled, but it's really not. It's maybe a C or B tier at best. Like hard bosses, when you start ramping up your Atlas, like with plus map boss difficulty or really hard mods, or trying to do like tier 4 Arbiter, those a lot of the in-game bosses are designed for you not to get hit by their abilities. So when you need to get hit in order to do damage, the build it just doesn't work. There's not enough support, so the gear will become cheaper in a week, if that. It's just expensive right now because of Mathil. Um, for those who don't know about Thorns and why it's better this season, first of all, they doubled or tripled the Thorns rules, so they're much higher. And they gave us 2 new supports. Quill Burst, which is essentially when you get hit, you can retaliate with an AoE, but this attack cannot hit the target that caused the AoE. Or, I'm sorry, uh, the target struck. So if I swing this at a mob and there's 3 mobs around it, it will hit the 3 mobs and not the main target. So this is purely AoE. Um, this has the attack, AoE, melee, trigger, physical tag. Nothing scales this. All this simply does is take your attack and apply your Thorns damage in an AoE. So if your Thorns here says 3,000, at the end of your attack, so on top of this number here, or actually, I'm sorry, I won't even include this number. When you hit, nothing scales this. This is just simply carrying your Thorns damage to your attack as an AoE. And then Barbs is the single target version of this. Barbs apply, you get hit, and then you can retaliate for 4 hits, not 4 attacks, 4 hits against a single target mob. So you basically, some people have an AoE skill, like some people are using like Resonating Shield with Quill Burst, and then I have this on like a Jab or Blood Hunt, or I can't remember, the Rapid Assault I think is the jab skill from Spears. That's okay. I wanted something simpler and I just wanted to break armor and not have to worry about it, so it's all in the same ability, but you could in theory swap them around um, kind of however you want it. Molten Blast is from leveling, Stampede is just there from leveling, Earthquake is there from leveling, Leap Slam, not really much here to do, just concentrated ground movement ability. And then on Mace Strike I have Exploit Weakness. And I was toying with this on another skill, but so ignore this. But Exploit Weakness, sometimes on bosses when you go to hit them, you break their armor, you get your scavenge plating up, and then the boss fight lasts longer than 10 seconds, or 12, or whatever it is, so then you need... This allows you to remove their fully broken armor, then reapply broken armor via your skill, however you're getting it, so your scavenge plating can stay up, because that's a major source of thorns. And that's pretty much all for the skills. Time and Need, this is okay. I think it got buffed this patch, but it's okay. Like, it's nothing super good. There's not really much you can sock it into. I think if you had more spirit, you could put like 1% life regen. But yeah, this is like the problem with Thorns build, is it quickly becomes hard to support with other things besides just like whack a mob and do your Thorns damage and get hit and do your Thorns damage. There's not a lot of there's just lacking. It's a lack of material for the archetype. I hope they keep expanding it. I think it went in the right direction. It is fun. But yeah, it's totally missing a lot of things. Like some suggestions that I think would be nice is like of Quill Burst and Barbs. These should just like automatically rearm every 5 seconds or something, because nothing is more frustrating than being at a boss and it is sitting there and refusing to attack you. It's doing some other bullshit, and because you're a Thorns build, you have to get hit first. So if, what I suspect they're trying to avoid is like Thorns builds turn into like auto attack builds, and like you just stack Thorns and you just puke out some attack and deal it everywhere. So that's why they want you to get hit first. But I think they could accomplish the same thing, but then make it rearm every 4 or 5 seconds, or make it last longer than 4 hits. Just something to solve that awkward spot of Thorns. Another thing would be like a Herald. I think Herald of Barbs would be the name I would give it, with just a Herald for Thorns. But like when a mob takes Thorns damage and dies from it, it can shoot like a little barb nova, the carrying some portion of the Thorns damage it took. Um, I think that would help the clear, because like this does work, but this is like me probably reaching to try to make something work. It'd be nicer if there was just a Herald for Thorns. Um, and maybe some other things to make them debuffed, things to make mobs take some type of, like, some way to debuff mobs more would be nice for this side of the tree. But I think this is overall a larger issue with the bottom left side of the tree. It's just kind of in a weird state. Block is pretty bad. It's okay when you're a Warbringer and you can like fully tilt into it, but as another class, it's just okay. Armor is still terrible. Playing melee in PoE2 is terrible, like quote unquote melee, and I mean like this is like literal melee. Like I have to get hit and I'm whacking a mob with one ability. It is terrible. The game is not balanced around melee. There's so many situations where being ranged would solve the problem. Um, Melee's not tanking enough, life values are too low. List goes on. But overall, it's still a fun playstyle. I would recommend it if you've never played Thorns. It completely dunks on the campaign. There's some bosses you can literally just AFK and come back and it's dead. Um, it's totally worth a play through the campaign, but like you get to like 15 and 16 maps and you really start noticing the pain points of like true melee, and Thorns is just like a step behind true melee because you have to get hit first. But yeah, that's the build. Figured I'd show it. Maybe it'll help some people out with some other Thorns ideas. If I were to do something else, I would probably consider Pathfinder with some type of proliferation, or there's even some Infernalist stuff. Self-igniting yourself, and there's a new charm that ignites everything in your presence. You could probably use that to help your clear, and then just like be a full Avatar Fire Thorns build, um, using like big crit damage bonus, 50% fizz is fire, and then just becoming tanky. Or there's even some things around like some mana casting Lich with the new support that gives you like 50% of your mana as Thorns damage while you're channeling. That's probably the amount of clunk that would have is probably insane, but it does have really good damage. Like if you get 10,000 mana, which is pretty achievable, it's 1,500 Thorns damage, which is basically what I'm at now with full Scavenge Plating up. So there are some options. Titan has some viability. Mathel is a pretty good guide on Smith. Um, Witch Hunter is also another option. You can try to solve the clear with Zealous Inquisition. It's probably okay, but like Witch Hunter overall really doesn't offer too much. Like it'd just be the clear. Like you can kind of make use of these or these, but like not really at the same time. It's just not really ideal. Gimling, you could jack up your Scavenge Plating level with +2 levels, and Gimling just is like all around good, so you can make something work there. Yeah, Amazon can't work. Pathfinder, Poison, we already covered that. And yeah, nothing up there. Those are the ideas. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Catch you later.